My name's Lee, and today I'm going to take you through an efficient and effective process on a shop floor staple, the high skin fade. Before starting any haircut, it's important to assess the hairlines and growth patterns to see if there are any fixed factors that might have a negative effect on a desired outcome. Especially when fading, it's important to assess the growth patterns and directions in the temple area and the nape area. One of the fixed factors here is the crown. As you can see, it's slightly offset, so I have to be mindful of my cutting methodology and shape development in this area. For the most part, fixed factors will tell you exactly what you need to know when it comes to deciding what fade is suitable for each individual human that sits in your chair. I'm going to start this haircut by spraying down the hair until it is thoroughly damp. Alternatively, this can be done at the basin with shampoo and conditioner. Next, I'm going to decide my zone pattern, which will dictate the overall shape development in this haircut. Something I discovered during my initial assessments is that the crown sits quite closely to the occipital bone at the back of the head. This is important for me to notice as it affects the shape I can build in the crown area. I'm choosing to use the crown's natural growth direction to dictate how I section this area. I want the hair to sit organically, so I'm not forcing any hair to sit where it doesn't want to naturally sit. I'm also not choosing to take a deep V section in the crown, as there isn't enough room to do so between the crown and the occipital bone. In this instance, I feel like this would adversely affect my cutting methodology and not be a beneficial decision when thinking about efficiency. Once I have the back of the head separated from the front, I'm going to separate above and below the contour of the head on the sides, roughly a comb's width higher than the contour. This leaves me enough hair to create the desired shape. If I section directly on the contour of the head, it negatively impacts my visibility, which could encourage me to create shape too low, resulting in having to recut those sections. Secure this zone with a clip. I'm going to start towards the front hairline and develop the shape with the block graduation technique, using horizontal sections. I'm choosing this technique because it allows me to get the graduation nice and tight to the contour of the head and is an efficient cutting method. As I start to approach the crown, I'm going to switch to a graduation technique using diagonal back sections to make sure that I allow for the offset crown and I move with the hair growth patterns. As you can see here, the hair growth spirals around the head from right to left. Once I reach the centre back, I'm going to stop and move on to the other side. Like the previous side, starting with block graduation. As I approach the crown on this side, I'm going to carry on with this graduation technique with a slight diagonal forward method, as this is the way the hair is growing. Moving on to the top now, I'm going to start by establishing a profile guide through the centre of the head, roughly the width of my comb. I'm choosing to cut the hair with a square cutting line. This look is going to be worn off the face, so I need a little bit of length at the front to be able to do that. Simultaneously, the square cutting line allows me to reduce density on top of the head and allow it to sit organically. Each subsequent section will be cut on a vertical axis using a small amount of hair from the previously cut section as a guide, and each section will be elevated directly off its base. Always look for the guideline when cutting a new section. This will ensure maximum accuracy and balance throughout the zone you are cutting. Once I've finished one side of the top zone, I will cross-check for balance and move on to the other side. Once I'm happy with the zone on the top, I'm going to connect it to the zone on the sides so that the hair grows out suitably for the client. In this case, I'm choosing a diagonal forward section and using the previously cut section on the contour of the head as a guide. The diagonal forward section prompts me to use over direction to ensure I don't cut the hair at the front of the head too short, as this is going to be a focal point of this look. I'm going to adjust the front of this haircut with a feather razor. This is because I don't want any harsh lines at the front, as it's going to be worn off the face, and I feel it looks better with a softer finish. Notice that I'm not using the razor too deep on the hair shaft. This will ensure I retain density internally, but simultaneously create a soft line. Now that's the top complete. Before I go ahead with the fade, I'm going to style this look. For this, I'm going to use Motion MSF1 Cloud Matte Styling Balm. I'm going to warm a small amount between my palms and distribute evenly throughout the hair from roots to tips. Applying product to damp hair allows for even distribution and for me to pre-style the hair, so I have a really accurate assessment on the overall balance when it comes to fading. I'm starting with a gentle air attachment, using a medium speed and a medium heat. This is to rough dry the hair until it's about 60% dry. It's important to rough dry the hair in the direction that it's going to live, especially in the crown area. Follow the natural growth direction of the crown for most control. If it's a particularly active crown, place one finger directly on the crown and again follow the direction of the crown pattern to get it to sit flush to the head. Once the hair is roughly 60% dry, I'm going to switch to the concentrator nozzle on the supersonic and a vest brush. This is to compact the hair and gain as much control as possible in the styling process. Again, it's really important that I follow the natural hair growth direction here for the most organic finish. Much like the process of a haircut, it's important to think about where to start and finish the drying process. I've started around the crown and the contours because I want to control them first. Lastly, I'm going to move on to the front and lift the hair away from the face. If I did this first, I would risk interrupting it while trying to control the rest of the head. Once I'm happy with the control of the hair, I'm going to switch back to my gentle air attachment and loosen up the hair using cool air. This will close the cuticle for maximum hair health and solidify the product again, giving it great hold. You can see how this sets me up really well for the fading process. I can see exactly what I'm fading into and what would look best on this hairstyle. If I cut the sides first, I would be guessing everything, which could lead to an inefficient cutting process. The first guard I'm using for the fade is a number 2 with the lever closed. This will run directly into the block graduation that I created in the initial scissor work. A great tip to ensure that you don't destroy the shape is to comb the hair in the direction that it's going to live, instead of combing it straight down. Combing the hair straight down will give you a false reading of weight. Next, I'm going to scissor overcomb the weight line to ensure a smooth transition. I'm not trying to change the length too much here, just ensuring everything flows nicely. I'm going to set my zero line 2 fingers depth from the initial weight line. This gives me enough space to fade the hair appropriately and bring balance to the overall look. This hair type gets light quite quickly once I start to fade it, so it's important for me to assess and choose the correct guideline. This may work differently on different hair types. Repeat this process on the other side and join up at the back. Next, I'm going to use the foil shaver to take the hair down to the skin. I'm being quite gentle with the shaver here, allowing it to do a lot of the work for me. I'm also being sure to leave a few follicles of hair just underneath the zero line to ensure ease of blending later on in the fade. The next guard I'm going to use is the 1.5 with the lever open. This will sit nicely underneath the number 2. Then I'll move on and close the lever to a true 1.5. Once I'm happy with how the 1.5 is looking, I'm going to take off the guard and open up the lever. I'm flicking the blade off the skin about an inch up from the zero line. We're always considering the colour spread. I know that I still need to use the number 1 guard to spread out the colour in the darker areas, so it's important for me to leave enough hair in these areas. Once I've cleared the hair with the lever open, I'm going to move down towards the zero line and slowly close the lever until the line fades away. Be sure to use the clipper in a fluid motion here and flick out slightly when cutting the hair. This will add softness and ensure minimal lines are left in the hair. Speaking of lines, let's look at how to remove a zero line. Some hair types can be quite forgiving and some hair types not so much. Our general rule of thumb is that whatever tool you use to put the line in is the tool that will get the line out. I put the line in with an Andis Supra ZR, so I'm going to use that clipper to get it out. Notice I'm using the last few teeth of the blade to gently erase the line. If there is any shadowing left over, you can also use the foil shaver in a similar fashion. I'm gently using the corner of the foil here and tapping down on the line to lighten the colour ever so slightly. Moving on now, I'm going to use the number 1 guard with the lever fully open, and that's going to sit just under the 1.5 that we previously put in. Then I'm going to close the lever and focus on getting the colour spread as even as possible. Once I'm happy with how the number 1 is looking, I'm going to remove the guard once again and balance out the dark areas throughout the fade. Now is also a great time to sharpen up the hairlines and edges. I'm using an Andis trimmer here, and our general rule of thumb is to get the hairlines as sharp as possible without cutting into the natural hairline too much. Scissor over comb can be used again to ensure a smooth transition and colour balance. I like to use a picking technique with my scissors too. This allows me to pinpoint individual dark spots and pick them away with the tips of my scissors. Repeat this process on the other side. You'll notice that we like to put the haircut together like pieces of a puzzle. Generally with a high skin fade like this, we'll cut one side first, then mirror that on the other side. This gives us a guide and reference point for the rest of the fade. Then we'll come back and fade the back corners around the mastoid bone, and finally connect the points together at the back. Following our process, now I'm going to move onto the panels towards the back around the mastoid bone area. I'm going to repeat the exact same process as the previous panels. Once I'm happy with the balance of these panels, it's time to connect it all together at the back. Once I'm happy with the colour spread around the head, I'm going to move into a refinery process with the texturising scissors. I'm using these scissors as this hair type can be quite unforgiving and show lines and dark spots throughout the fade. So instead of going back with clippers and cutting scissors which have straight harsh blades, I want to go in with something a little softer that allows me to have a lot of control over the refinement process. I'm using the wide teeth of the comb here to pick up the hair, and I'm only focusing on the darker areas of the fade that need balancing out. To finish this haircut, I'm going to add another small amount of MSF1 cloud. I'm using my fingertips to loosen up the hair and place it where I want it to sit. So there you have it guys, the high skin fade in an efficient and effective manner. Be sure to visit the fading digital lecture to discover all of the terminology and theory mentioned in this tutorial. To see more like this, please visit our extensive education library